If this was reversed, we wouldn't even had this long of debate. It would have already been pulled from me if I was the introducer, or it would have already been voted back. And you would have fixed it. And you would have told me next year, bring a comprehensive bill that covers it all. Because we're not going to pick winners and losers when it comes to our most tragic events across this world. But that's what we're doing today. We decided to be the people who whitewash history. This is probably one of the most disappointing votes that I'm going to see. And I've had a lot of votes get killed and bills get killed. But don't tell me that Nebraska's for everybody after this. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Senator Wayne. Members, I would remind you we are on final reading. I would ask that all members return to their seats and check in, please. Members, would you please check in? Senator Walz, Wayne, Blood, would you check in, please? Senator Albright, would you check in, please? All unexcused members are now present. Members, the question is the adoption of the motion to return LB 888 to select file. There's a request for a roll call vote in reverse order. Mr. Clerk.
Senator Wishart. Senator Williams. No. Voting no. Senator Wayne. Voting yes. Senator Walz. Voting no. Senator Vargas. Voting yes. Senator Stinner. Voting no. Senator Slama. Voting yes. Senator Sanders. Voting no. Senator Pansing Brooks. Not voting. Senator Pauls. Senator Merman. Not voting. Senator Mosier. Voting no. Senator Moorfeld. Not voting. Senator McKinney. Voting yes. Senator McDonald. Voting no. Senator McCollister. Voting no. Senator Lowe. Voting no. Senator Linehan. Voting yes. Senator Lindstrom. Senator Lathrop. Not voting. Senator Coulterman. Voting yes. Senator Jacobson. Voting no. Senator Hunt. Voting no. Senator Hughes. Voting no. Senator Hokeman. Voting no. Senator Hilgers. Voting no. Senator Matt Hansen. Voting no. Senator Ben Hansen. Voting yes. Senator Holleran. Senator Gregert. Voting no. Senator Geist. Voting yes. Senator Friesen. Voting yes. Senator Flood. Voting no. Senator Erdman. Senator Dorn. Voting no. Senator DeBoer. Voting no. Senator Day. Voting no. Senator Clements. Voting no. Senator Michaela Kavanaugh. Not voting. Senator John Kavanaugh. Not voting. Senator Breezy. Senator Brewer. Voting yes. Senator Brandt. Voting yes. Senator Bostelman. Voting no. Senator Bostar. Not voting. Senator Blood. Voting no. Senator Arch. Voting no. Senator Albright. Voting no. Senator Aguilar. Not voting. Senator Pansing Brooks. Voting yes. Senator Walz. Not voting. Senator voting yes. Senators Brandt, Brewer, Friesen, Geist, Ben Hansen, Coulterman, Linehan, McKinney, Pansy Brooks, Slama, Vargas, Wayne. Voting no. Senators Albright, Arch, Blood, Bostelman, Clements, Day, DeBoer, Dorn, Flood, Gregert, Matt Hansen, Hilgers, Hilkeman, Hughes, Hunt, Jacobson, Lowe, McCollister, McDonald, Mosier, Sanders, Stinner, Williams. Not voting. Senators Aguilar, Bostar, John Kavanaugh, Michaela Kavanaugh, Lathrop, Moorfeld, Merman, Walz. Breezy, Erdman, Holleran, Lindstrom, Pauls, and Wisher. Vote is 12 ayes, 23 nays, 8 present not voting, 6 excused not voting, Mr. President.
The motion to return to select file is not adopted. Back to the bill. LB 888.
Engrossed Legislative Bill 888, introduced by day, is bill for enacting education amendment section 79-76001, revised statute supplement 2021, change requirement relating to academic standards for social studies and repeals the original section, be enacted by the people of the state of Nebraska, section 179-667, revised statute supplement amended to read 79-66001. State Board of Education shall adopt measurable academic content standards for at least grade levels required statewide, such pursuit of 79-66003 standards shall give a subject to rating and mathematics, social studies, bureau shows measurement content for the following part of the social studies, financial literacy, educational holocaust, other subjects, generalized recommend the contract. United States and the nation of the JADA for 2022, citing the standards pursuant to the section of 7-inch clear measurement testing and student improvement mastery of the content described in the state standards. State Board of Education shall develop plan to review and update standards of each subject, each area every 7 years. State Board plan shall include a review of commonly accepted standards adopted by school districts. Section 2, original section 79-76001, revised statute supplement 2021 is repealed.
All provisions of law relative to procedure having been complied with, the question is, shall LB 888 pass? All those in favor vote aye. All those opposed vote nay. Have all those voted who wish to? Record, Mr. Clerk.
Voting aye, Senators Aguilar, Albright, Arch, Blood, Bostar, Bostman, Brandt, Brewer, Kavanaugh, Clemens, Day, DeBoer, Dorn, Flood, Geist, Gregert, Hanson, Hilders, Hilkeman, Hughes, Hunt, Jacobs, Colterman, Lathrop, Linehan, Lowe, McAllister, McDonald, Morfeld, Mosier, Merman, Pansing, Brooks, Sanders, Slamas, Dinner, Vargas, Walls, Williams. Voting no, Senator Friesen. Not voting, Senators McKinney, Wayne, Breezy, Erdman, Holler, and Lindstrom, Pauls, and Wishart. Vote is 40 yeas, 1 nay, 2 present not voting, 6 excused not voting.
LB 888 passes. Colleagues, the next item on the agenda is the recognition of departing senators. I ask you that you remain in your seats. Mr. Clerk, for items.
Thank you, Mr. President. Bills read this morning were presented to the governor. Additionally, communication from the governor. Engrossed legislative bills 873, 1014E, 1083E, and 1084 received in my office April 7, 2022. These bills were signed and delivered to Secretary of State on April 13, 2022. Signed, Pete Ricketts, Governor. Mr. President, your Committee on Transportation and Telecommunications, chaired by Senator Friesen, reports Legislative Bill 520 to general file with committee amendments. Legislative Resolution 462 introduced by Senator Breezy, that'll be laid over. And name add, Senator Vargas, name add to LB 921, Pansing Brooks 960, Lathrop LR 427, Pansing Brooks to LR 451 and 458. That's all I have this time, Mr. President.
Thank you, Mr. Clerk. Senator Brewer, you are recognized.
Thank you, Mr. President. Well, now is our chance to recognize the outgoing senators. I was given the opportunity, and I believe it is a great opportunity to say farewell to someone who I really don't want to see leave. We have spent a lifetime together, and he is one of those who is leaving of his own free will. I questioned that decision a few months ago when he told me, but after the last few days, he seems like a very wise man. Speaker asked me to kind of keep it short, but it's hard if someone who has lived a full life and has done a lot to shorten that somehow. But I'm going to try and run through real quick and tell you about Tim Gregert's service to both Nebraska and to his nation. Tim graduated from Creighton High School in 1977, and within a few weeks, he was off to basic training for the United States Air Force. He was a loadmaster on a C-141, and for you guys that don't know what that is, that's a large transport aircraft. you're a load master on one of those, that means you go everywhere the plane goes. And he went to every continent, even Antarctica. When he finished that service, he went to the University of Nebraska, studied natural resources, got his degree, and immediately went to flight school at Fort Rucker, Alabama. That's special to me because him and I are at Fort Rucker, Alabama at the same time. We took different paths. He flew the UH-1 Huey. I did too at one point, and then I went to the AH-1 Cobra helicopter. The big difference is his mission was to go and help people. My mission was to go and kill people. Seems fitting that we got those roles. That was supposed to be humorous, but you're not taking it that way. He flew the UH-1 Huey helicopter for 10 years and transitioned to UH-60 Blackhawk. For those that went out to the flight facility and took the ride the other day, that's what you rode on, was the UH-60 Blackhawk. He flew the Blackhawk and the Huey both in combat. He served in Desert Storm. He served in 2006, 2007, Iraqi Freedom. And I've said this before on the floor, he's very unique amongst military pilots in that he volunteered to go to Afghanistan, not as a pilot, but in a ground role with Nebraska's ag team. And for you guys that don't know what an ag team was, that is a team of specialists, from everything from veterinarians to, in Tim's case, a specialist with water. And they were integrated into helping the Afghan communities better understand how to do agriculture. It was a great mission for Nebraska. But it was a dangerous mission, and he didn't have to do it. He was a pilot. He could fly everywhere he needed to go, and they'll still shoot at you, but it's not quite as impactful. So just remember that when you volunteer to do those kind of missions, you put yourself at a lot more risk. And he was willing to do that. He was integrated in the team and liked by everyone who worked with him. Well, then he turned around in 2016, 2017, volunteered to go back to Iraq. He is one of those few people that have had an aircraft shot up while they're flying it and was able to get it back home. And for some, that may not mean a lot, but it isn't just your life, it's those that are on board. And again, he was a medevac pilot. His job was to save lives. He served 40 years. Just pause for a second and think about that. 40 years. Now, I served just short of 37, but I did it all in one service. He was both Air Force and Army. And he basically served as long as they let you serve. At the point that he was a Chief Warrant Officer 5, so if you guys don't understand what that means, you have enlisted that can go up to the rank of Sergeant Major, you have officers that can go up to a 4-star, and then you have warrant officers that can go up to a CW5. Highest rank that you can hold, he held that before he left and decided to come here and serve. But so you understand, he wore 2 hats and lived 2 lives in that he served in the military, but also was a full-time employee with the Natural Resources Conservation Service, put in 31 years there. And while he was working in his community, flying helicopters on the weekend, he was also a volunteer fireman and served on the school board. So this is true service. This is when you give all that you have to your community and to your nation. So we're going to bid him farewell. And I will miss having him here, but I am envious. He'll go back to Creighton, his son Brent, daughter Megan and Jessica, 5 grandkids, Braxton, Mason, Ashlyn, Owen, and Creed. And I asked him, I said, well, what's the plan, Tim? And this part kind of stuck with me because his goal in life now is his grandkids. And the really important goal is he's teaching them to fish. So he's going to be sitting beside that stream or lake. He's going to have Maggie, his dog, and he's going to be teaching these kids the values in life. So I'm going to miss you, Tim. Thank you for your service.
Thank you, Senator Brewer and Senator Gregor. Senator DeBoer, you're recognized.
Mr. President, I will now open on my bracket motion on this farewell speech, bracket until April 20th in 2026, and I have the next 1,632 amendments, so you can't change it, Lathrop, and you've got to stay. When I first walked into this room, the first time, it was with Senator Lathrop. We were walking into our orientation, and Senator Hunt wasn't there yet, Senator Kavanaugh wasn't there yet, and Senator Ben Hansen wasn't there yet. And I remember walking in and thinking, so Senator Lathrop and I are the diversity. I, because I'm a woman, and he, because he's an old white man who still has hair. There are several things that I used to hear about larger-than-life Lathrop that first year. The great golden sun from Omaha. Lathrop, 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 we used to always say. And the rest of us felt a little like Jan Brady in comparison. But I quickly learned that the hype was all very well deserved. Because there are a couple of things that you want in a legislator. You want them to be smart. If any of you has any doubt about how intelligent Senator Lathrop is, simply sit in Judiciary Committee and watch him as he takes a bill out. When someone introduces it, you imagine it's some sort of sci-fi show where they've got this 3D thing and he kind of looks at it and he's figuring it out and he's looking for any unintended consequences. He does all of this in his mind, and then he asks the question that shows the pressure point on that bill. And it's through that mechanism, that understanding of how this bill will fit with all the rest of the areas of law, that helps him to create really useful ways of writing bills that aren't going to have those unintended consequences. You want a legislator to have dedication. And I don't think anyone can doubt Steve Lathrop's dedication. He came back for another 4 years, and he took on chair of Judiciary. I figured out at one point, 1 out of every 5 bills in this body goes through Judiciary. Some might say he has a little too much dedication because he wants to make sure that every bill coming out of Judiciary is perfect before it hits the floor. The third thing you want in a legislator is seriousness. And when I think about Senator Lathrop with respect to seriousness, I think of the passage in Romans that talks about sighs too deep for words. Because there have been many times when I've been down in his office talking to him about a particularly thorny issue, and Steve will do this thing where he's talking in the middle and then kind of sighs and says, yeah, because he can't even sort of get out all the words that goes along with some of the issues. No one could ever doubt that he takes things seriously. You also want a legislator to have intellectual humility. Now, this is a rare trait. He and I were arguing one time, a couple of summers ago, about something, I don't even remember what. And he said, "It's just not that way." And I said, "Yes, it is." He says, "It isn't. I've never seen that." And I said, "You don't know what you don't know." And he said, "You're right. Let me look at it again." Maybe I'm not explaining this quite as much as I should, but that is something profound. The ability to say, maybe I don't know everything. Maybe I need to look again. That intellectual humility. Senator Lathrop's story is the American story. You know, the kind of rags to riches, local boy makes good kind of story. But that ability to recognize that his American story isn't the only American story, that's profound. Fifth thing you want from a legislator is a sense of timing. Well, Steve, 4 out of 5 ain't bad. If you want to know about Steve Lathrop's sense of timing, you could consider, for example, that the most controversial bill my first year was slated in Judiciary for 4 p.m. on Valentine's Day. And several of us were there until 10 or 11 p.m. that night. He also likes to schedule all the most difficult bills right before lunch when we have all-day hearings. And we never got out of Judiciary before it was lunchtime. I learned a lot about leadership from Steve Lathrop. I learned that there are times as a leader you have to throw a punch, whether that be a yes vote when all of your friends are voting no, or a difficult no vote. I also learned you have to be able to take a punch. Senator Lathrop, even after working on an issue for 12 years, even after putting his heart and soul into it, when it went down, he reacted with dignity, with class, and with professionalism, and got back to work. I could talk to you about all the policy areas he's affected. The CIR, stem cell research, chairing the Nico Jenkins Special Investigative Committee, the 1107 negotiations. But he's touched so many more, both as chair of Business and Labor on his first tour, and now as Judiciary, that there's hardly an area that isn't touched by him, not to mention all of his work on the Ag Committee. Senator Lathrop, you leave a legacy of attention to our criminal justice and prison systems. No one can finish that work. But you've set this body on a path to stay attentive to the problems in our prisons and in our community criminal justice system, and to take another shot next year and the next year and the next year. So Steve, for all the years of friendships, for the memeable speeches on the floor, for your care for this institution, for your hard work and dedication, and for being Father Judiciary these last 4 years, but mostly for being a 100% decent human being. We thank you, and you will be missed. And as my friend, I'll say, I'll miss seeing you every day. It's been an honor to serve with you, and enjoy your life post-legislature.
Thank you, Senator DeBoer and Senator Lathrop. Senator Michaela Kavanaugh, you are recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, colleagues. I'm here and I am absolutely going to cry. I know that's going to come as a shock to everyone. I am here to talk about my dear friend and colleague, I'm already starting, Senator Matt Lathrop, who was 26 when he ran and was elected to office. Matt Lathrop, sorry, it's like Matt Kavanaugh. I am off to a fantastic start. I am here today to talk about my dear friend, not Senator Lathrop's brother, but my dear friend, Senator Matt Lathrop, who was 26. This is all part of the plan. Senator Matt Hansen. Senator Matt Hansen. I feel like I should just sit down now, but I have things to say about you. Well, or somebody, I guess. Okay. 26 when you ran, Matt Hansen, and you ran for LD 26 and you were representing them from the time that you were 26. Some biography information about Matt Hansen is he is son to David and Mary Kay Hansen, born in West Virginia, making Take Me Home, Country Roads by John Denver a particularly karaoke favorite of hashtag Team M Hansen. You might notice a theme. I got some information for you. You served on the Urban Affairs Committee throughout his term, as well as General Affairs, Government, Business and Labor, Judiciary, Back to Government, and the Planning and Rules Committee, and served as the Business and Labor Chair from 2019 to 2021. Some of his legislative accomplishments include passing bills surrounding judicial reform, establishing a hearing to determine the ability of someone to pay a fine or fee, ensured incarcerated individuals can get a state ID or renewed driver's license before they are discharged, and has continually addressed competency issues. Worked on the census issues with the Complete Count Committee, which was passed but vetoed by the governor. No opportunity to override the veto, but you're in good company on that. The Line of Duty Compensation Act, which he introduced 3 times before it was passed in 2021. Senator Matt Hansen's work on issues of affordable housing, including the passing of the Missing Middle Housing Act and changing landlord-tenant laws, will have unmeasurable impact for the people of Nebraska for generations. As chair of the Business and Labor Committee in 2020, he and his office assisted hundreds of people across the state in fixing issues with their unemployment claims. This is some of the things that I got really directly from staff now. I titled this section, Our Matty. Senator Matt Hansen cares first and foremost about passing good public policy that makes Nebraskans' lives better and not about credit or the limelight. He cares about his legislative staff and always fought for better conditions for staff. He trusted us, shared the workload with us, and celebrated victories with us. Our favorite Matt quote, "I have a motion pad and I know how to use it." He's also known to introduce a ton of bills each session and pass a lot of them too. He loves a whiteboard to keep track of his bills, any fidget toys, a good GIF, Diet Coke, a subtly themed tie, his cats, Rico and Winston, and most of all, his family and Jane. Then I kind of asked a few other people, some people here, some people who used to be here, and there were some enduring themes about Senator Matt Hansen. Believe it or not, his calming influence on me. Just imagine what it'll be like with him not here. His ability to break down complex issues like a teacher. This one was really prevalent a lot. You are a rules aficionado. And whoever the clerk's office next year is probably going to really regret that I don't have you, because they have no idea how many questions I would be asking them if I wasn't sitting by you. I already asked them a lot. So your heart and dedication for affordable housing is something that is going to transform the state for a lot of really vulnerable people. You're a devoted partner to Jane and co-cat parent to Rico and Winston. You take up hard topics and say what the body needs to hear. Again, you love fidgets, and we'll share them with you. You need a distraction. And also, some of his fidgets have made their way to my desk, or we just have communal fidgets now. And of course, whiteboards again. The first time I met Senator Matt Hansen, was at a coffee shop with our former colleague, Senator Sarah Howard, and she thought we were going to be good friends, just right out the gate. She thought we were going to be good friends. And then she left. And I was like, this guy doesn't talk. This guy doesn't talk at all. How are we going to be good friends, Senator Howard? And of course, no one should ever question the wisdom of Senator Sarah Howard. She was right. He does talk, actually quite a lot. And he's kind and generous, and he's fiercely loyal and inspires loyalty in everyone around him. And he one time made me take a picture in Puerto Rico with birds on my arms because he said that his wife would really like it. Turns out she's terrified of birds, and so was I. So he's funny. He's a little bit of a jokester. Just beware. But with that, I will end with the words of our famous Nebraska speechwriter, Ted Sorensen. I wanted this to be reflective of Matt, and so I am providing you with levity, apparently a lot at the start, brevity, clarity, and charity. Thank you, Senator Matt Hansen, for all your service and for your friendship.
Thank you, Senator Kavanaugh and Senator Hansen. Senator Dorn, you are recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Well, I, like the others, get the honor today of speaking about Senator Robert Hilkeman, who has, as he said this morning, this is one day short of 600 days serving in this legislative body on this floor. Amazing. One thing I didn't, when I came to the legislature 4 years ago, got to be a member of the Appropriations Committee, was so thankful to be on there and have Senator Hilkeman kind of as a mentor and a guide in a way, to have somebody to visit with, to have somebody to look at. I call it the different aspects of how funding, how revenue, how appropriations affects our state and this body. So he has been a very, very positive influence on me. But one of the things I did learn that first year in appropriations, we're in room 1003, and I don't know how many of you have been in there. I know some of you said this was the first year you'd ever been in front of appropriations. You didn't get to go to that room. We're kind of a long, narrow room. There's only one camera in there, and it's off in the southwest corner. Senator Hilkeman sits in the southwest corner, so his back is always to that camera. While being a new senator, I got to sit right next to the person always introducing the bills and speaking. I did learn very quickly that if I nodded my head or kind of fell asleep, people saw that. I went home and told my wife one day, I said, Senator Hilkeman has the best chair in that room, because when he nods his head or falls off, you just see the back of his head. And nobody knows, I imagine nobody knows that he's falling asleep. One of the things that I didn't know, and Senator Hilkeman and I have had some great visits, I knew him indirectly about 50 years ago. I graduated from high school at Adams, Nebraska in 1972. Senator Hilkeman's first job out of college was a football coach at Table Rock High School about 30 miles away. Did not know that. The other night when we were out at Playmore, visited with his wife a little bit, and I said, so what was Senator Hilkeman's record while he was the football coach there for 3 years? And she sat there and thought a minute, and she says, well, I don't know, I'm not sure. But you know, if he would have done good, they would have probably tried to keep him harder. Senator Hilkeman was a coach for, like I said, 3 years. He was down at Table Rock. His starting wage back in '69 about was $6,800. He, with his coaching salary, received more than some of the teachers that had been there numerous years. They were very jealous of him. Now today, and I think somebody talked about this on the floor the other day, he started at $6,800. Somebody else did also. They started at a low salary. He is retiring. His last job, $12,000 a year. So yes, after 50 years, you did make progress. Some other things that his wife's name is Julie. My wife's name is Julie. We have a Julie Slama, and now Senator Jacobson's wife is also named Julie. So it's a little special there, but she told me, and Senator Hilkeman's also told me over the years, Senator Hilkeman's been a podiatrist. And he's dedicated that life not only to his business in there, but also, I call it nationally, helping better that profession and serving on a lot of boards. Senator Hilkeman was also named National Podiatrist of the Year one year. I don't know what year, but his wife had to tell me that. I think that's a great, great honor. Congratulations on that, Senator Hilkeman. He's also a pilot. His wife told me he's a pilot. 4 years I've served with him, I didn't know he was a pilot. Her only comment was that we have flown many places and we've always landed right. That was her comment. One of the things that, for me, as I've known him over the years, the 4 years, is his family. That has meant very, very much to Senator Hilkeman. He often talks about his wife, and in the last couple weeks or the last month, he's had 2 members of his family here in the legislative body with some of his grandkids. And to see the smile on his face and to see how proud he is of having them. One lives in Chicago, and I know one lives in Texas, to have them come here. Senator Hilkeman, to me, has always exemplified 2 things: integrity and honesty. And I think that also speaks volume, as others recognize that also, by being chairman of Committee on Committees, and how he has treated people always fairly, honestly, and with integrity, and how he did his job as a state senator with those same qualities. As I listen to some of the other talks here, I do realize one thing: as the senators that are in this body, many people are not here because they only are good at one thing. They're good at many things, and they are involved, and they give back. I call it, they give back to the people of the state of Nebraska by serving here, by being on other volunteer things, by being on other boards, and all of that stuff. Senator Hilkeman, thank you for giving your 8 years to the people of the state of Nebraska.
Thanks, Senator Dorn. Senator Hilkeman. Senator Lowe, you are recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Well, it was my job to find something nice to speak about Senator Hughes about. Well, my father told me if you can't say anything nice, sit down and shut up. Senator Hughes, it's been a good 6 years with you. Thank you from coming from Venango out here to somewhere in the eastern part of the state where nobody knows where it's at. We have been going to breakfast every first day of the week when we're in session, whether it's a Monday or a Tuesday. The Lords of Windsor would go out for breakfast with a few guests. And that's been a great way to start the week. We talk about what we did over the weekend and how we're going to screw everything up the rest of the week. Pretty much, I think we've accomplished that. But you would talk about Venango and the western part of the state, And every time you did, you beamed, you smiled, you talked about the crops, you talked about the people back home and how important it was for you. And now Josie will have some help with those grandkids. You'll learn to go to all the plays and the games and everything else. It's well weighted. It's good. A couple of people are going to miss you around here. Nodder. Okay, just one guy's going to miss you around here. But I loved hearing you banter with Senator Chambers over prairie dogs and how wrong he was over those little rats running around in the field. But you've been a gentleman while you're here. You have great honor. You have a lot of respect. You're almost a city guy around here. And so I started thinking, I knew of another guy that was kind of a city guy that was returning to the farm. And it just brought back these memories. Well, Oliver Wendell Douglas, you're about ready to go home, and to get good reception on your phone, I'm sure you have to climb the telephone pole. And I know now, because you wanted me to keep this short, I know now you'll return home, you'll put on your shorts, you'll grab your floating device, maybe a kid or two, a grandkid or two. You'll go out and test the water and plop down in your ditch. Senator Hughes, thank you for serving the state. Thank you for serving your constituents the way you did nobly. And we're going to miss you.
Thank you, Senator Lowe and Senator Hughes. Senator Vargas, you're recognized.
Thank you. Can't follow Lowe. So I have to say, when I was tasked with writing a send-off speech for who I believe is by far one of the most liked people in this body, I was very touched and honestly really nervous. Talking about Mark Holtzman right there. Yeah, you can cheer for that. I knew I wanted this to be a touching tribute to a beloved colleague, but I also didn't want to let up this moment to have a little bit of fun and actually honor the pride of Seward. Senator Holtzman, born in Seward, went to Seward High School, went to Peru State College, got a degree in industrial technology, married Suzanne on August 7th, 1971, has two wonderful children, Jessica and Jennifer. He's a wonderful father, wonderful grandfather, and we've been privileged to have him here. Got elected in 2014 and re-elected with no opponents in 2018. I don't know how you figured that out. He is our beloved insurance agent. But I've always called Mark, Marky Mark. Many of you know him as one of the three apostles of the Nebraska Legislature, along with fellow disciples Matthew and John. He's worn many hats throughout his tenure here, from being the godfather of 1107 and tax incentives to the master of handling scope of practice bills, which we've been told not to do, to championing Nebraska's retirement systems and also being a champion of UNMC. Senator Holtzman really knows how to bring things to the finish line and get things done for Nebraska. But I'm going to tell a story because it's what he would do. Now, I've had the privilege of seeing Senator Holtzman put on a very important hat or a crown for 4th of July in Seward, Nebraska? Yes, you could shake your head, Senator Lathrop. Seward is 4th of July city, and that is undebatable here. You know, as we all know, 2017 was an incredibly difficult year for our friend and colleague, for the loss of his amazing and wonderful wife, Suzanne. And some of us were here when that happened, and we cannot tell you how much we love you and care for you and wanted to be here for you during that time. And so 2018 came around, and some of you may know this, but Mark's favorite parade to walk in is Seward's 4th of July parade, which he would always walk with his late wife, Suzanne. And in 2018, many of us decided to surprise him and go to Seward during this parade and just walk on up and be part of the parade with him. And I cannot tell you how surprised he was. And it was an amazing thing to see because we wanted to be there with him. And actually, I remember when he saw me, he said, "Tony, you lost? You're supposed to be in Omaha?" And actually, it didn't end there. Actually, my wife and I spent the entire day with his wonderful daughters, Jessica and Jennifer, his entire family at his house. We watched the fireworks. It was a testament to the kind of person he is and how he leads with love and compassion. And it meant the world because it's the kind of generous and kind human being he is. And I think we've all seen that. And that same night was when we hatched a master plan to make my parents the Seward 4th of July host family over a couple of drinks. Now, for those of you that don't know, the host family is essentially kidnapped on the highway right outside of Seward. That's not an exaggeration. That's exactly what happens. And brought back to Seward to be honored during the 4th of July festivities. And this was by far one of the most fun and unique experiences my parents had, or even I had. We hatched this plan, and I think probably the best moment was seeing how excited Mark was to scare my father when the state patrol pulled him over on the highway. He's like, "I really want to be part of this." So seeing my parents be honored and the smiles on their faces was something I'll never forget. And honestly, the thing that I'll never forget is having a friend create a memory that I will never forget from my entire life. I know we all have that memory with Mark. The last thing I'll say is just I've been really honored to serve with you on appropriations. I don't mean this to be offensive to any of the other appropriations committee members, but he is my favorite seatmate. I steal his food, his candy, pretty much anything that's next to him, I will take it from him, even during a hearing. He swats my hand away every single time. And even though the things that we do in appropriations, trying to balance our budget or make sure we're protecting our cash reserve, can get a little bit dry, on these days, I can pretty much guarantee that Mark will utter some joke underneath his breath, and I'll hear it because he wants me to. He'll give me a fist bump, or we'll just huddle in the hallway and talk about something that just happened. And it just reminds me of the kind of person he is. Lastly, I want to recognize the incredible legacy that he left on behalf of his late wife, Suzanne. This year, along with the help of senators in this room, Mark secured $15 million to continue and to invest in UNMC's pancreatic cancer research. It is truly a wonderful legacy that will help so many other families and hopefully be able to save the lives of many other loved ones. Anyone who knows Senator Colterman knows that he lives and he loves deeply. His humor is beyond infectious. He never takes himself too seriously, and he's always up for an adventure. Mark has always stood up for the independence of the Nebraska Legislature. And I hope we remember that and do everything we can to live up to that ideal. He leads with honesty and integrity, and that has always been the cornerstone of Senator Colterman's career here. It has been a true honor to work with him and to call you a friend. With that, I hope you will join me in thanking and honoring our dear friend, Senator Mark Colterman.
Thank you, Senator Vargas and Senator Colterman. Senator Hunt, you are recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
I feel a lot of pressure because there's no way for me to adequately express the love and admiration I have for this man. Um, and everybody else's speeches have been so good. And after hearing some of the things some of you have said, I'm like, oh my God, I'm so underprepared. But I just want to speak from the heart today about someone who's very beloved to me, even though he's the only person in this body who has more Twitter followers than me. And that's Senator McAllister. He is beloved by me. He is beloved by the people of Nebraska. And here's some of the things the people of Nebraska had to say about him. Veronica Parrish on Twitter says, "It's the mugs for me," which I have here. Senator McAllister has these wonderful mugs with his name on them from his campaign that say, "Your representative owes you not his industry only, but his judgment, and he betrays instead of serving you if he sacrifices it to your opinion," from Edmund Burke. And I'll talk a little bit more about that important quote too. Someone else says, "He earns my respect with his reasonable, thoughtful, and politely considerate statements and questions in legislative debates." This is one that I thought of too. When Jackie was running against him in 2018, that was his opponent in the last legislative race. When Jackie was running against him, he told her that if anyone, including his party, used his image in an attack ad against her, he would sue them because he would never give permission for such a thing. He is a class act in today's political climate, colleagues. Someone else said, "Thanks to the senator, I now check myself before I condemn all Republicans." You know, he had some other choice comments after that, but I'll stop there. But that's really an important legacy in politics for someone to leave, is someone like Senator McAllister, who cuts through that division and makes people think more seriously about the quality of the person before painting with a broad brush an entire group of people. Integrity, compassion, a commitment to legislating from a place of caring for people instead of partisan political doctrine. He's also the nicest politician I've ever met. And this might be someone who doesn't know me, but that's a nice comment too. Former Senator Laura Ebke says, "We served together for 4 years and we sat near each other for most of that. He is kind, thoughtful, and has carried bills that should cross party lines. While his approach frustrated some, he demonstrates both principle and humanity." There are countless comments that people sent me when I solicited people's thoughts about what they loved about Senator McAllister. And Senator, this is how you are seen by Nebraskans. This is the legacy you have built through your own behavior and your own actions and your own record of hard work that has spoken to people from all backgrounds, from across the political spectrum, and has inspired people to care about government, to get civically involved, to have hope and optimism for what this democratic project can be, and to feel like that maybe there's a place for them in this democratic project. Sarah Howard said she wanted me to mention this too, and I'd like to mention it for you. "Basically, I love him and I think he's the tops, the bee's knees, the bomb.com. I love that he is just as likely to jam out at karaoke as he is to pick up a thorny issue. I love that he is so devoted to his wife, Deb, that he seems like a hero in a romance novel. And I love how brave he is to confront the failings of his own party, the party that has been a part of his family for decades, and how he insists on considering every issue through the lens of how it impacts his constituents, not just the party. He's just the best." So this is the legacy that you have built, Senator McAllister. And I also want to share not just what you mean to Nebraskans, but of course what you mean to me, since I have the privilege of the position of being able to give this tribute to your legacy, which is still in the making. I grew up knowing Senator McAllister's family because coming from another moderate Republican family, we kind of grew up knowing each other. And Senator McAllister came to my high school graduation party. And I didn't know him. He was a friend of my dad's, and he brought me a card. And I remember feeling really kind of inspired and special and feeling like somebody like John McCollister would come to my high school graduation in Blair, Nebraska, and give me encouragement for my future. I think he gave me like a little check, which was really nice going into college. And what he did made me feel like I mattered. And this is completely consistent with the stories that we hear from staff, former staff, school groups that have come through the Capitol. Everybody who has met John McCollister has a story about how he made them feel like they mattered. Not that, there was something wrong with them or that he had a judgment about them. And this also speaks to what a true man of faith that he is. He and his wife are active in the congregation at the Tri-Faith Initiative, which is a really special place in Omaha that brings together a Muslim mosque and a Jewish temple and a Christian church all on the same campus. And he's invited me to several events there where I was able to join him and his family and be a part of the culture there. And how much that represents what Senator McCollister is all about. It's being a person of integrity and being true to yourself and your beliefs while remaining open and keeping your heart open to the beliefs and experiences of others and not diminishing that and saying, it's not the same as me, so I don't agree with it. That's exactly what Senator McCollister is about. He represents the most hopeful and optimistic potential for this democratic experiment that we have in this country and that we have in Nebraska. This Edmund Burke quote that he has on his mugs, "Your representative owes you not his industry only, but his judgment. And he betrays instead of serving you if he sacrifices it to your opinion. If he sacrifices that good judgment to the opinion of the majority, he is betraying you." And this is, a trustee view of politics that says we're sent here to use our best judgment and our experience and our understanding of the law and procedure to make decisions for our constituents. And that has been a great inspiration to me. Sometimes he gets pushback or criticism for being a Republican who's willing to work with Democrats, but he has nuanced views on every issue. They're informed not by his party, but by his own independent views that he arrived at through examination. And most importantly, through that, he really walks the walk. And for example, I remember how when we went to Nashville for an NCSL conference, and many of you were there at that conference too, Senator McCollister came around to all the senators that were going to the conference, conservatives, progressives, everybody in between, and he made us each a folder that had printed off information about accommodations, and he started a group text, and he was trying to make sure that we could all get together for dinner and meet for drinks, and he knew what hotel everybody was in. And this was not his wife doing all of that or something like that you might stereotypically think. He truly was invested in making sure that we could come together and spend time together. And for whatever reason, COVID being a huge reason for this and political division that we may have growing here, that's something that we have lost, and we really need to take inspiration from Senator McCollister's vision and bring back and work toward having more of. And that time that we had in Nashville, and he was not the only Republican there, by the way, like there were many, and we had the best time. And those are the memories that I think I will cherish most from my time here in the legislature. And they were facilitated by people like John McCollister, who sets these kinds of examples. He's an includer. He brings people along to events. But he's not someone you can take advantage of either. He's this really nice guy, always smiling, always kind to everybody, but he's also very wily. And we've served together on the Government, Military, and Veterans Affairs Committee, and between working on that committee and work that we've done together on SNAP, on food assistance expansion in Nebraska, I'll think everything's going fine and we're all getting along to go along and everything's good, and then he'll smile and come over to me and kind of whisper something in my ear about how there's some strategy and we're going to end up fixing it. And it's a really great strategy and technique that I've learned from being around him. Just keeping your wits about you, but not letting anybody ever take advantage of you. Yes. Don't let anybody take advantage of you. He has a good humor about himself and his work, and he has worked so hard to improve the quality of life for people in Nebraska through the SNAP increase that we passed in 2021 when we overrode the governor's veto, and through driver's license for DACA recipients. This was a bill introduced by Jeremy Nordquist, but Senator McAllister prioritized the bill. He used his priority to prioritize driver's license for DACA recipients, and because of that, the bill passed. I am not sad today, Senator McAllister, and I'll say I won't miss you because I'm going to continue to see you all the time, and you will be in my life forever, and I will spend the rest of my years drawing on the experience and knowledge and lessons that I've learned from my time serving with you in government, which has been, really such a privilege. I am sad for the people of Nebraska who will not benefit from your vote in this legislature and your voice in this institution. These speeches today that everybody has given have made me feel sorry for this state because we are losing so much experience, from Senator Lathrop, from Senator Coulterman, from Senator Stinner, everybody, I could name everybody, who have so much subject matter expertise and experience that we will no longer be able to benefit from. When Matt Hansen's gone, who am I going to ask about the rules? You guys think I'm good at the rules. People ask me questions about the rules, and I'm like, I just learned it from Matt. I don't know. And it's scary to think about the future of this institution without the intelligence and experience that all of you bring to it. And John McAllister is very special to me and special to the people of Nebraska, and that is clear to everybody who follows anything about politics in this state. I want him to know that he is loved by people that he hasn't even met, that his legacy will outlive all of us, and he has made history in this state. And he and his lovely wife have raised 3 amazing children, and I'm glad that you'll get some time to spend with your family and your grandkids. And I just want to thank you for your service and for your integrity and for your example. Thank you, Senator McAllister.
Thank you, Senator Hunt and Senator McAllister. Senator Wishart, you are recognized.
Thank you, Mr. President. I have been avoiding thinking about this day for about as long as possible. I promised myself I would not cry during these speeches, so I decided to do all that beforehand while I was writing this. I will tell you, colleagues, cucumber under the eyes really does work after a hard cry. Adam Moorfeld, Senator Moorfeld. I remember meeting you for the first time when we were in our mid-20s. I knew you as the young man who successfully grew Civic Nebraska out of your dorm room as a University of Nebraska student. And I remember you sitting across a table from me at a coffee shop telling me that you were planning to run for the legislature. From that time until now, almost a decade has gone by. And it has been an absolute honor to watch you as your friend develop into the talented man that you are today. Working with you in the legislature has been one of the greatest experiences of my life. Your moral compass, Adam, is so finely tuned. And you make each decision based off of your passion for helping people, a passion for positively impacting people's lives that comes through in every single piece of legislation that you have introduced. You're not just a public servant, you are a fierce defender of the downtrodden and of our democracy. And I know that you have the back of all the little guys in this world against all the bullies out there. I remember watching you as a freshman. Senator, my first day in the legislature, during the debate to preserve the filibuster that lasted for over a month. And regardless of what side senators in this room were on during that debate, your leadership, determination, and courage during that month was undeniable. Your legislative record has shown you a staunch advocate for affordable health care, for criminal justice reform, free speech, medical cannabis legalization, thanks, buddy, voting rights, and the nonpartisan values of our legislature. And you've done all of this while also helping lead 2 successful ballot initiatives, one that's still underway, continuing to grow and expand Civic Nebraska, serving on numerous legislative committees in this body and across the country, including being vice chair of the Education Committee. When I was writing this, I actually laughed out loud that most people would have made these accomplishments in a series of years over their lifetime, and you're doing this all at the same time. I would be remiss if I didn't give a shout out to your lovely wife, Rachel, who is one of the kindest people I have ever met, and a great person, Adam, for you to walk through life with. I also love the fact that she always texts you and calls you about supporting my pro-animal legislation. I guess that now would be the time for me to tell you not to tell Rachel that you voted for Halloran's livestock euthanasia bill. Adam, you have accomplished so much in your life and your legislative career, and yet what I'm most excited about is your future and the life you have yet to live. I am so excited to see what you do with your life, who you impact, where you will go. The sky is the limit for you, my friend, and to be honest, I wouldn't be surprised if you blow past that limit. This world is lucky to have you in it, and our legislature was lucky to have you in it for 8 years, using all of your talents for good. You will be missed, and wherever you land, you will be loved. Good luck on your future adventure, my friend.
Thanks, Senator Wishart and Senator Moorfeld. Senator Walls, you recognized.
Well, I have to apologize to Patrick. I know no props are allowed, but is my lipstick okay? No. Okay. I'm trying to play the song, but I can't. Oh, I know why. Can you hear it? I love you all. I love you, darling. Just love you. Okay. Well, I know I did my best at being Patty, but it is really hard to be Patty because there is no one like her. When I first started on this new venture, trying to learn and fit in, Patty instantly intrigued me. I know she was someone that I wanted to hang out with, and I know she was someone that I really wanted to learn from. She soon became a role model for me, and she continues to be that. Patty is charismatic. She's beautiful inside and out, and she's certainly stylish, way more than I am right now. She's truthful and faithful, and she's fierce. She represents people, and she fights for equality. Patty fights for the equal opportunity for all people to live in peace, regardless of who you are, the color of your skin, young or old, regardless of who you love, your abilities or disabilities, your economic status, your level of education, your occupation, imprisoned or free. Patty protects all people, and she advocates and loves all people. It's really rare to find someone like that. Patty has a heart for Jesus, and like Jesus, she would leave the one righteous behind in search of the 99 who are lost. I have witnessed her do that again and again and again. And I think that is the quality I admire most about her desire to help the lost. Is she perfect? No. Does it always come naturally for her? No. Believe me, I have been on the wrong side of Patty, and it is not fun. It takes a conscious effort. It really does. And many of you have seen her podium filled with little sticky note reminders to speak with kindness, to be polite and considerate, among many, many others. She keeps a folder in her desk full of favorite quotes. And colleagues, those little reminders are intentional. They serve a purpose to remind her and all of us really that thoughtfulness and kindness will win in the end. It's obvious that Patty uses her legislative platform and her experiences as her ministry, her purpose and her calling. Patty is also a pretty fun person. If you have ever been to one of Patty's parties, you know that she is a very gracious hostess. Patty carefully plans the menu, the appetizers and the drinks, and the dinner and the drinks, and the desserts and the dessert drinks. Patty is thoughtful, and she wants to make sure that every person that comes to her house feels welcomed. I will always remember the fun that we had at some of the slumber parties at Patty's house. Patty made it clear that these parties were for girls only, no boys allowed, although they didn't always listen, Matt Hansen. We had a blast, though, listening to really loud music, pretending that we could dance and sing, laughing, crying, and sharing great conversations, building relationships, and making lasting friendships. Of course, we were a little late to the floor on the next mornings, but that is nothing new for Patty. I can count on one hand the number of times she was on time to committee hearings. There were times when all of the other senators had introduced themselves, and Patty finally decides to stroll in. You know how she strolls in and gives me that look like, aren't you going to let me introduce myself? Adam and I are like, no, we're past that, Patty. I can't talk about Patty without talking about her devoted husband, Lowell. And this guy is devoted to her to the end. I know that Patty is who she is partly because of the man she married. He exhibits all the fruits of the Spirit, but I would have to say patience is his number one virtue, and it has to be. He is loving and caring and respectable. They are both a great source of encouragement to me and many others. Together, their values are reflected in the beautiful children they have raised, Avery, Graham, and Taylor. Patty, you are blessed with a wonderful family, and I know that you are very, very thankful for them. Patty believes in communion, and she definitely promotes harmony. She believes that people can come together, even when we are on the opposite sides of an issue, to do something good for Nebraskans. I did appreciate the time that she took to talk positively about each and every one of our colleagues, finding the good and reminding us that we all have special talents and qualities. And we should respect and value each individual person. It really was a bright spot in this long, hard last few days of session. Patty, you are a rock for many people. You have the ability to work across the aisle and discuss issues, and you do it so well. You are a force to be reckoned with. But most important thing about you, Patty, is your unconditional love and your advocacy for all people. Well done, good and faithful servant. Senator Patty Panzin Brooks, it has truly been an honor to serve the people of Nebraska with you.
Thank you, Senator Walls and Senator Pansy Brooks. Senator Jacobson would like to welcome 94th graders from North Platte Public School. They are seated in the north balcony. Please stay risen and be welcomed by your Nebraska Legislature. Senator Wishart, you are recognized.
Thank you, Mr. President. When people ask me what it is like to be a senator, I tell them it's been the best chapter of my life, because how else would I have gotten to meet and work alongside John Stinner? Senator Stinner, it has been an absolute honor to serve with you in the legislature and on the Appropriations Committee. I speak for more than just myself, that you are one of the best, if not the best, Appropriations Committee chair that has ever graced these great halls. You have helped our state manage through unprecedented budget experiences, billion-dollar shortfall, historic flooding, a pandemic, and now billions in stimulus, and you have done so with wisdom and courage and discipline. Knowing the accomplished life that you have led, it is no wonder you have been such a steadfast captain of our appropriations process. From the young boy who grew up in Pittsburgh and came to Nebraska on a football scholarship and left with a BS in business administration and an MA in economics, to the young man who founded a bank in 1988 at 37 years old. That's my age. At 37 years old, you founded a bank, and with your partners expanded that bank across western Nebraska and into the Front Range of Colorado. To the husband of the incredible Rita Stinner and father of two beautiful children, to the public servant who served on the Gering School Board for 10 years, 5 of those as president, chaired the Nebraska Bankers Association, and then found your way to the Nebraska Legislature. You have led an inspiring life, John, and you are a role model for a lot of us in this body and in our community, that hard work and commitment and discipline and integrity is a recipe for doing something meaningful in your life, building something great, positively impacting people in our community. As one of 9 senators on the Appropriations Committee, I have had the unique honor of watching you at your best in the role of Appropriations Chair. In a world in which politics and partisanship can pull us apart, John, you are refreshingly uncorrupted. You live by what is right and what is fair, not what is politically expedient. You have been a leader for providers, early childhood education, affordable housing, and economic vitality. Often the weight of the world, well, at least our entire state, has been on your shoulders, John. And it has been an honor to get to work with you and watch you lead through these points of pressure. I remember one time in particular that I will never forget. One late night during an extremely tough debate where we were in your office working through an appropriations matter that had us both pacing. I learned how to pace from John's dinner. You pointed to the photo of your father on your wall and told me that when you were faced with a tough decision, you thought about him. And that no matter how tough a decision he had to make, he always did what was right, not what was easy. And that when you looked at that photo, you wanted to make sure the decisions you were making would have made him proud. John, your father would be so proud of you because that is exactly who you are. On behalf of our entire Appropriations Committee, the legislature, the state of Nebraska, I want to thank you for your service to our great state. Your work will go down in history as the living and breathing definition of what it is to be a public servant. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Wishart and Senator Stinner. Senator Arch, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. President. We are doing roll call in regular order, so now we're down to the W's and Senator Matt Williams. So I want to talk a little bit about Matt and his impact on me personally, and I think we'll all recognize this about his impact on really all of us. He taught me a great deal. I have served with Matt on the Health and Human Services Committee now for 4 years. And here are the things that he taught me. I remember when I was brand new, and again, we all recognize this sensation. We sit in committee hearings and we hear all these ideas, one after another, and the bills come and you say, well, that sounds like a good idea. And well, that sounds like a good idea. And well, I think I could go for that. And I just remember in one particular time, Matt leaned back in his chair in one of our executive sessions and said, well, let me talk about the last 3 times this bill's come to the committee. It's like, what? This isn't a brand new idea. This has been here before. And that was so helpful, that historical perspective on no, this isn't the first time. It's a little bit different than the last time it came to the committee. Let me tell you, he also said one time, he said, let me tell you what happened the last time that came out to the floor. And so, we're in the era of term limits, but the history that people, and Senator Williams has done that for me, the history that people bring, even with 4 years of experience, is so important to pass on to new senators, and he certainly did that for me. Subject matter, right? Subject matter. That is one of the things that he taught me in the Health and Human Services Committee. He also taught me about strategy, and this was one thing that I witnessed in particular a couple of summers ago. Matt was working with the long-term care associations and the providers, and with the Department of Health and Human Services when it came to setting rates for long-term care. I mean, that obviously would make everybody jump back because that's a very difficult thing. But what he did and what he does is he puts everybody in the room. Everybody goes, oh, you mean put everybody in the room and you talk to each other? And so Matt had a huge room. There were a lot of people in the room, and he asked me to join the process, and I just watched him. And one thing, he okay, we're going to take this issue off the table because this is really hot. We're going to do that, and now we're going to talk about the other issues. And by golly, it actually worked to put people in the room and talk about these issues. And I saw him do that as a strategy. He works his bills. He puts opponents and proponents in the same room and say, let's talk about the things here. And so when he would bring bills out, it wasn't just like, hey, let's roll these things out and take a shot, but they were worked. He knew if there were still some unresolved issues. He knew what had been resolved. He knew where people had come to agreement. And that was a huge learning experience for me. The third thing he taught me was what happens and what should be happening in committee hearings. And that was that committee hearings are there so that you, as a committee member, gain an understanding of the issues so that you can make a good decision on your votes. And now that sounds simple, but not, as I have discovered, not all committee hearings that actually happens. Sometimes it's there for us as senators to talk about everything we know versus gaining an understanding. So I watched him. His questions were thoughtful. His questions were intended to elicit more information so that he could make the correct decision when the time came for a vote. It was substance that he was seeking and not show. So here are the descriptors that I would use about Matt. He was thoughtful in his questioning, in his comments, whether it be in committee hearings, in the hallway, in exec session. I would characterize him as thoughtful. He was supportive of me. He was encouraging to young senators who were trying to get their feet underneath them and figure out process and people and issues and subjects and all of that. Very, very supportive for that. He was a steady voice of reason. He didn't rise and fall with all of the emotions, and he was very steady for that. He was always willing to listen. There are times I would drop into his office and just try to find some reason in the craziness. He was that. And the one thing I would always describe him, sorry, I'm getting a little emotional on this. But I would always describe him as professional. And we have some unprofessional behavior at times. But he wasn't that. He was professional. And I really appreciated that with Matt. So, with Matt, coming here to the legislature was not a career move. He came with a career. He had been very successful in his career. So, why do people like that come? They come to serve. And Matt came to serve. So, with that, I'll end. Thank him for 8 years. Not been easy, but thank you, Matt. You have a legacy.
Thank you, Senator Arch and Senator Williams. Senator Wayne, you are recognized.
Well, I'm not sure why I'm doing this. One, I've never served on a committee with Senator Friesen. Never introduced a bill together. So when asked to do it, that's what I told them. Why me? And they said, that's exactly, you haven't served on a committee with him and you haven't introduced a bill with him. So you're probably the only one who will say something positive. I said, okay. Well, all right, I'll take my chances here. So first I'll start with what I Googled, and I do know his wife, Nancy, that is his better half, and he would not be here if it wasn't for her being as strong as she is. He has 4 kids, Shannon, Corey, Tiffany, and Neil. And I'm gonna stop there and tell a quick story to be very quick. So our first year having some Fireball, we were at an event and I was still trying to figure everybody out. And Senator Friesen said, "You're like my son." I didn't hear the whole thing. I thought he said son, calling me over. So I took it kind of racial and I kind of barked at him. And he barked back and said, "That's not what I said." And then hollering got between us. Do you remember that night? And we both kind of looked and said, the only person who's going to get hurt here is hollering. And that's kind of how we became friends. So it was really weird. But he has a long public service history of being on the Upper Big Blue NRD, the mayor of Henderson, and was on the Nebraska Corn Bee Board. So he's always served his constituents and always done well. Little fun fact, Senator Friesen's first bill he introduced in 2015 was LB 164. This is what my staff did, because they had to think of something positive to say. And it was creating a biennial budget option for the NRDs, and it was passed and signed into law. So that was a really good start. His last bill this year, 1234, was IPP'd by his committee. Not a very good inning, but if you ever negotiated with Senator Friesen, that's not the end of the story. There's always another part of the story. So you got to dig a little deeper, and then you'll find out it was actually put into his committee package. So that's how he negotiates. He doesn't tell you everything he wants the first day, and then it'll kind of move a couple times the next 3 days. But I learned that 3 years ago, and I made a comment again over Fireball. If you haven't had a theme, he is the only reason why Fireball is still in existence. He keeps them afloat. But I said, this is like the Cold War and U.S. negotiating with Russia. And then I looked at him and I said, you're Gorbachev. And I've always called him my Gorbachev ever since then. So he's always treated me well, except for he was the first person to IPP any of my bills in his committee. I asked him, well, he didn't even tell me. It was read across the floor. And so I got real mad. And I said, you didn't even tell me. He said, you got notice when it was read across the floor. Like, thank you. I appreciate that. So I tried to ask him what his accomplishments was so he can tell me something positive to say about him. And he said he passed the largest tax relief bill by himself this year. So congratulations on that. And then second, he said, I've invested in Fireball. So he is now a proud owner of Fireball. I don't know, I just made that part up, but he is the reason truly that they have been around for the last couple of years. So I didn't really have a whole lot to say, but I will tell you that my first year, Senator Hughes and Senator Friesen were over at Notter's place, and they taught me a lot. But Senator Friesen was the one who truly taught me a lot about rural issues when it comes to school funding. And that is the only vote that I've ever regretted was, I believe last year, you had an amendment that I didn't vote for, and I told you that afterwards. I regretted that. But he really kind of helped me understand what's going on out in Western Nebraska. And there have been other people who were significant, but I truly think 1024 would not have passed without Senator Friesen being at the table and helping me do that. And that's the kind of person he is. He spent time. He's the only one who came to North Omaha, not only one, but he's the one who sat at Harold's Cafe as transportation chair and watched a number of semis go by and say that we have to do something. It was not for rural Nebraska, it was for Florence. And we commissioned a study that is going on currently that they are going to try to move Highway 75 from that current location. We don't know where yet, but we're having that conversation. And so Senator Friesen not only represents his constituents very well, but he came to little North Omaha and helped us pass some funding and a bill to make it better. And that's the kind of person he is. You have done well, not only for your largest property tax or tax package this year, but you have also helped all Nebraskans be successful and move forward and moving Nebraska ahead. So with that, I appreciate everything you've done. I thank you for your service, and I thank you for teaching me a lot about rural Nebraska. Thank you, Senator Friesen.
Thank you, Senator Wayne and Senator Friesen. While the legislature is in session and capable of transacting business, I propose to sign and do hereby sign LB 888. Senator Wishart for an announcement.
Thank you, Mr. President. Colleagues, on behalf of this special personnel panel, I want to provide you with an update on the status of our investigation of the workplace complaint involving former Senator Mike Groney. Just to remind you, the special personnel panel's role is limited. The SPP must advise the accused member of the legislature of the allegation and appoint an investigator who may be a person with appropriate investigative skills from outside of the legislature. Out of our desire for a thorough, objective, and independent investigation, the SPP retained Lincoln employment law attorney Tara Paulson on February 28, 2022. Our panel just reviewed the final investigatory report as prepared by Ms. Paulson. Today, I will read you the entire executive summary of this report, and then we will be giving you the entire report in a physical hard copy. And if you or anybody else needs a copy, they're going to need to contact Chairman Hughes to get another copy of this report. So I want to be clear that what I am reading you is in Ms. Paulson's words. The special personnel panel appointed by the Executive Board of the Nebraska Legislature retained me to conduct a formal investigation of a workplace harassment complaint pursuant to the legislature's workplace harassment policies. I was asked to determine whether the facts alleged in the workplace harassment complaint constituted unlawful sexual discrimination or harassment, to prepare a written report of my findings, and if appropriate, provide recommendations regarding remedial action and recommendations of preventative measures to be considered by the Legislative Council and/or Nebraska Legislature to more effectively prevent workplace discrimination, harassment, and retaliation. The workplace complaint at issue was initiated by an employee complainant of the Nebraska Legislative Council against then Senator Michael Groney. More specifically, on Friday, February 4th, 2022, complainant verbally reported a concern to individuals designated in the legislature's workplace policies charged with handling complaints of alleged workplace harassment. One of the designated individuals verbally informed the chairman of the executive board of the allegations that same day. The designated individual submitted written reports of the complaint to the chairman of the executive board on Monday, February 7th, 2022. On behalf of the executive board, the chairman took immediate and prompt steps to investigate the allegations in a confidential manner, which initially began as an informal resolution as desired by the complainant. The chairman, on behalf of the executive board, followed the processes as delineated by the Nebraska Legislature's workforce harassment policy. While the informal resolution was in process and pending, details of the workplace complaint were made public through various news articles. Because the details of the complaint were public, the chairman suggested to the complainant that a formal investigation be conducted, since protection of complainant's identity for confidentiality purposes was no longer possible. Complainant agreed with the chairman's suggestion, and the matter shifted to a formal investigation, which led to my retention on February 28, 2022. Over the course of several weeks, I conducted interviews of 10 witnesses. The witnesses included employees of the legislature, as well as several senators. Because the investigation will be released publicly, I will identify witnesses anonymously to protect their identities. The one exception to this general rule of maintaining anonymity is for Mr. Groney, who was identified in media articles as engaging in problematic behavior and who ended up resigning when the allegations were made public. For that reason only, he is referenced by name. In addition to conducting the in-person interviews, I reviewed 50 pages of screenshots taken of Mr. Groney's laptop that contained photographs of complainant. I reviewed policies of the legislature, including workplace harassment policies, technology policies, workplace harassment training logs, and other personnel policies. My investigation revealed that Mr. Groney did take photographs of complainant without her authorization or knowledge. Mr. Groney's actions can best be described as boorish, brainless, and bizarre. especially for the workplace. However, complainant was oblivious to such photographs until she uncovered them while working on Mr. Groney's computer, which impacted my analysis as discussed below. I did not receive nor review any evidence to suggest the photographs were shared with any other members or employees of the legislature. I conclude that the conduct of Mr. Groney was wholly unprofessional and inappropriate. In the private sector, the conduct of Mr. Groney would most certainly have resulted in disciplinary action up to and including termination. If Mr. Groney had not resigned, his conduct would likely have led to corrective action, such as reprimand, censure, or expulsion. However, according to relevant legal standards and the legislature's workplace harassment policies, Mr. Groney's conduct does not constitute unlawful discrimination or harassment. Further, the chairman, on behalf of the executive board, appropriately followed the legal standards and the legislature's workplace harassment policies in conducting its investigation. My investigation has been delayed in part due to the parallel investigation being conducted by the Nebraska State Patrol. Should the investigation of the Nebraska State Patrol, which is in possession of evidence I have not been permitted to view nor evaluate, reveal evidentiary findings contrary to my report, I reserve the right to reopen this investigation and reevaluate my conclusions contained herein if requested by the executive board. This report contains 8 sections. Section 1, Organization of the Nebraska Legislature. Section 2, Summary of Public Allegations. Section 3, Relevant Legal Standards. Section 4, Summary of the Nebraska Legislature's Workplace Policies. Section 5, Summaries of Individual Witness Testimonies, and then Legal Analysis, Recommendations, and then Conclusions. That is the end of the executive summary in Mrs. Paulson's voice. Colleagues, I encourage you to read this entire report. I want to thank the complainant for having the courage to speak out on this issue. As a former staff member myself, it is clear that we have a lot more work to do to improve our workplace culture and environment at the legislature, and that will be continued in the recommendations in this report and the interim studies introduced. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Wishart. Mr. Clerk.
Thank you, Mr. President. New resolution from Senator Linehan, LR 463, that'll be referred to the executive board. Announcement, the exec board will meet upon adjournment in room 1510. Exec board upon adjournment 1510. Finally, Mr. President, priority motion. Senator Aguilar move to adjourn the body until Wednesday, April 20th at 10 o'clock a.m.
Colleagues, you've heard the motion. All those in favor say aye. Opposed say nay. We are adjourned.